All right, Amin is an interesting character. He's got a ton of knowledge. He's got a ton of experience. Amin, tell us all about yourself.
Well, a quick shot about me and just general fitness. I went to a military academy for high school. While I was there, I was pretty much immersed in what we call PT, which is basically physical training, physical torture.
Did you get up early and everything?
Every day we would, probably get up at 5, 6 in the morning. You'd have to prepare our uniforms, shine our shoes.
You went to LaSalle?
Yeah, I went to LaSalle.
Were the Trump kids there?
Yes, they were. Eric Trump was no, not Eric Trump. Eric Trump actually, no. What happened was Eric Trump went to St. Paul's in Garden City.
Okay.
Which I also went to.
That's a nice.
That's actually a very famous high school. That was a
pre-prep school?
A pre-prep school where actually Fred Trump's father donated the athletic fields.
Oh, at St. Paul's?
That's St. Paul's in Garden City. So the fields are actually, they're still there, obviously, in Garden City, but that's.
It's a beautiful building,
that's my
right?
claim to fame. The other claim to fame is that the Secretary of Defense also went to my high school from years ago. I don't want to say his name, but everyone knows who he is.
Who is it? Which one?
Dick.
Cheney?
Oh, yeah.
Dick Cheney went to LaSalle?
Oh, yeah, he did.
I
spoke at our commencement, which is even...
My Hampton Bays friends will all know because LaSalle Academy was in the League 7, which is a small school league football and everything out on Long Island.
We basically didn't have any major football team when I got there. The only thing we really had was like track, and we had this group called Raiders Challenge, which was something that I used to do all the time, which was a military obstacle course.
So it was like Spartan races before Spartan races.
Like, crossing rope bridges and doing obstacles and running through tires and crawling under barbed wire and stuff like that.
But what a lot of people don't realize is a lot of these things that they call CrossFit and all these things, trainers or a lot of people that have been fit have been doing these without a name for decades.
Many years. Well, I mean, that's a separate issue. CrossFit usually gets a bum rap because everyone conflates it with Olympic weightlifting.
Right.
You see people doing clean and jerk, and in reality, clean and jerk or snatches, these are movements that athletes have been doing for as long as there have been athletes.
Yeah.
Knowing how to utilize your body to clean and snatch specifically for a sport is a little different than knowing how to clean and jerk, specifically winning clean and jerk competition.
So I have a bad habit of saying CrossFit when I really mean high intensity interval training. I think because CrossFit is a brand name, and I don't want to say. And by the way, CrossFit is incredibly effective. It's a great program. I'm not going to say anything negative about the results of it.
Let me just say this: so Greg Glassman doesn't have us sued. What CrossFit means is, by definition, CrossFit is constantly varied, high intensity functional movements. That's what it is by definition.
Constantly
varied, high intensity functional movements.
Constantly varied, high intensity movements.
Performed to increase work capacity over broad time and model domains. So basically, it's like any kind of functional movement you could do. A functional movement is a movement which can be closely mimicked or associated with things we would do in life, like climbing stairs, picking up grocery bags, getting off the toilet, picking up your children, sweeping the floor. So
you got physical therapy, then you have like occupational therapy, which is teaching people how to get back into using things, and what functional training is teaching us how to be athletic through our movements of our daily life.
Right, correct. Which brings me to how I would define fitness.
Okay.
A lot of definitions are, obviously purported about, how to determine if somebody's fit or not. But I think the most important thing when determining fitness is the individual's need for activity in their life. Now, what I mean by that
again. Just go.
The individual's need for whatever the individual's need for personal activity is. If they can handle it self-contained throughout their life, that's a win. So if you're 80 years old and you can get off the toilets, that's a win.
If you're 80 years old and you can ride your bike 40 miles on a weekend?
Then that's even, it's relative. It's relative to the person, the individual. Because if you're 80 and you don't want to ride 40 miles a week, but you can still, take a walk and go to the post office, you can, maybe talk to your kids or grandkids and just live in a manner that you don't feel that you have to modify your lifestyle just to live. Like if you don't have to put railings in your bathrooms, you don't need a scooter to get up and down the stairs, and if you're not taking contrivance after contrivance to continue living, I think that's a win.
So
my definition of fitness is
right.
your work capacity, your physical capacity throughout your life, relative to your need.
Work or physical capacity throughout your life relative to your need.
Correct.
All right, that's interesting. We're going to get right into the meat and bones of Amin's interview right after this. Hopefully you'll see us on the other side. Thanks a lot. All right, cool. Let's get back in. Now we'll get. We did a little too much banter, so let's get into what you want to talk about. But I'm going to say welcome back, and then we'll go right from there. Do you want to preface it and tell me, or you know what you want to say?
I have an idea of what I'd like to say.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to let you go.
All right, yeah.
Okay.
So,
well, let me introduce. I'll go same thing. Probably fist. All right. We're back. We're talking fitness. I'm Pat, and this is Amin, or otherwise known as Coach A, one of a very, very good coach, very good fitness trainer, fitness coach. So, Amin, let's go.
Back to what we were talking about in general. What is a definition of fitness? And I would define fitness again, to reiterate, as somebody's work capacity throughout their life, or their ability to do whatever it is that they need to do. Whether it's, go to the post office, pick up their kids, clean their bathroom. Like if you can't, reach in and scrub your bathtub, without blowing out your back, chances are your fitness may have a hole in it.
The funny thing about this is that I have arthritis in my hip, which I always tell everybody about. Since I've had arthritis in my hip, my apartment is messier. And the reason why my apartment is messier is because it hurts to pick things up at different times.
So, and this is, these are practical definitions of fitness. I think people sometimes get caught up in the aesthetics of fitness, which is something that in the fitness industry in general, I think it's plagued us. It's actually a curse and a blessing. Because on one hand, everyone wants to look good.
Right.
But on the other hand, if you can't do something as simple as cleaning your bathroom because you can't bend down to clean behind the toilet, then
Well, I am someone like that, and this is part of the reason I started this whole series, is because if you look at me, I look incredibly fit.
Well, that's the majority.
However, I am having a hard time cleaning my bathroom. I'm having a hard time when I lose something underneath the couch. Sometimes I'm like, maybe I'll just buy another one. And so,
these are the practical applications of fitness.
And the thing that you said, it plagues us. You said the what was the aesthetics?
The aesthetic aspect of fitness.
It has something that will give us a motivation, but at the same time,
it doesn't really bring us to the proper thought process of what fitness can actually do.
Also about the aesthetic of fitness, there are plenty of people that don't lift weights that look great.
True.
Right?
True. And subsequently,
or don't exercise.
And subsequently, because of that, they feel like they get a pass because they look good in their clothes, and then they don't exercise. And then one day when they're saying, 65, because they haven't done any exercise ever, the first chance that,
well, no, where I see
get a little sick, or, eventually stuff is going to break.
Well, breaking is definitely something that we'll talk about, but what I notice is, and maybe this is getting a little personal, but women, when they start going through menopause in their late 40s, that's when all of a sudden the ones that were able to get away with it without working, they start to notice it. And men, when they get into somewhere into their mid to late 50s, that's when we kind of go through our menopause.
Like after an adult passes 40, you're going to start to lose muscle mass.
Due to the testosterone.
Just due to testosterone drop, and basically by 40 you have no growth hormone left unless you're performing either vigorous exercise, high intensity exercise, or you're sleeping right and your diet is perfect, but you're not making growth hormone at post 40.
So you're causing your body, so your body is not making its own growth hormone.
It is, but it's not going to make it unless you're in a REM sleep or under high intensity exercise.
REM sleep, high intensity exercise.
Primarily, yeah. There are two primary ways to stimulate. And then again, even when it stimulates growth hormone production, it's not like it's stimulating it throughout the day.
I read
growth hormone is ultimately what keeps us young.
Again, I keep on getting off the topic because I know you have a lot to say, and I talk too much too. I just read a study where it said marijuana prevents REM sleep.
I may personally agree with that.
Yeah, and I look at that, and the REM sleep is what kind of rests your brain, so your brain is able to absorb more information, as well as when your muscles repair. And
I've heard this as well, and I think that I've read different studies about that, and it's kind of a toss-up because on the other hand, some people are using marijuana to combat aches and pains.
I never felt that marijuana would help me with pain. I mean, but there's a difference between.
I don't know if it really helps with pain. It kind of like takes your mind off of it.
Also, there's difference. There's the THC and then the CBDs. I believe the CBDs help with pain. The THC doesn't.
I personally, as an athlete, I think that if you're an advanced athlete, and that's a separate topic in itself, at that point, you may, if you really feel that marijuana is hindering performance, maybe you want to drop it. If you get to that level where you're that advanced, where you're playing with
a lot of young athletes, right? Say, let's put this is well, if anyone knows me, I went through a stage where I drank too much, and that's why I no longer drink alcohol. But I played football, and they're in college, and before games, we were told you can't drink Thursday, Friday night before football games. So a lot of guys smoke pot instead, and I know like a lot of athletes that they know that alcohol has the really detrimental effects. So they choose marijuana over alcohol.
Right. And I've heard other things. I've heard that it diminishes testosterone and stuff like that, and that's where it gets kind of scary. So that's what I'm saying. If you're an advanced athlete and you're really looking to shave, milliseconds off of 10 seconds time, at that point, that's when people really can
drop the bomb.
Maybe drop the bomb. But by all means, I wouldn't drop the bomb. Or I would drop the bomb. I'd go out and get a vape. Save your lungs. But
all right.
If you get to that point, you get to that point. So to stay on topic, though.
Okay, yeah. Let's get back with everything.
To fitness. I think that another thing is that people tend to lose track that there are multiple components to fitness.
Yeah.
If you're just going to look at it from the definition I gave, which is the ability to do whatever it is you need to do throughout your life, having the work capacity to do the daily tasks you need to do, then the next thing is then you have to get into what are the components of fitness.
What are the components of fitness? Okay.
And basically there's 10 readily accepted components of fitness, and anyone who has like any type of personal trainer certification can rattle these off, but I'm going to rattle them off kind of quickly.
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't know about them until I started talking to you about this last summer, and this is something I found 2 summers ago because we just went through our COVID crisis, but I found it really interesting, so I hope the rest of you do as well.
Well, in a nutshell, here are your 10 components. We have cardiovascular, high-end cardiovascular intensity, the ability to sustain high-output cardiovascular work. Then we have stamina, which is the ability to go for distance. It's not necessarily referring to high-end cardio output. High-end cardio output is like someone who can run a sub 5-minute mile. Stamina is somebody who could run a marathon. You don't have to run the marathon in 4 hours.
Right.
But you could. You don't have to run. I'm sorry. You don't have to run a marathon in 2.5 hours.
Right.
A sub 2.5 hour marathon means somebody has very high-end cardiovascular fitness in general.
Right.
But somebody could easily go out and have the stamina to run a 4-hour marathon, but that doesn't mean that they're ever going to run a sub 4-minute mile.
Are you changing that at that point where are we going between like anaerobic and aerobic?
Well, you're actually, when you talk about cardiorespiratory fitness, you're talking about VO2 max. You're talking straight up at a cellular level, your individual cells' ability to pull oxygen.
And a VO2 max
cardiovascular fitness.
The amount of volume of oxygen that your lungs can absorb
is each kilogram of your flesh can take in XYZ amount of oxygen per given minute.
And there's certain athletes, well, we always thought Lance Armstrong.
Who can take in much more.
Right.
Who can take in much more. So Lance Armstrong, I believe, has a VO2 max of something like 84 milliliters.
And then he started taking the drugs on top of that.
And then you got EPO and all the other drugs. So then you're talking about a guy with a VO2 max of 90 something.
So a sub 5-minute miler and a sub 2, do they have both? Like, are they different
tend
components?
To have both. If you see an elite marathon runner, they would have high-end cardiorespiratory fitness,
right.
And they would also have stamina because they were able to stretch it out. The stamina refers to the body's ability to store fuel in the form of glycogen, fats, and other things that are readily available for the workout. So, in other words, if a marathon runner runs the first hour of the marathon at a 6-minute pace, and then all of a sudden on the back stretch of the mile,
he's losing it.
He's got no juice left. It's not because his cardiorespiratory fitness is off. It's because his stamina is off. He just did not have the fuel. The body did not have the energy reserves to complete the run, so he hit the wall.
Okay, so those are the first two.
So that's the
10. Say that again. Just repeat it.
So we have cardiorespiratory fitness. which is the body's actual ability to use oxygen at a cellular level. And then we have stamina, which is your body's ability to fuel exercise from a macronutrient level.
Okay.
So like if you don't have enough carbs,
right. That's what you're saying is pulling the glycogen for the
that's
glycogen
what stamina
stores.
is. Your body has developed a base of glycogen. Your glycogen stores is sufficient to produce more exercise. The next thing is obviously we have strength. Onto three, which is strength, which is you put it on the ground, you pick it up, you're strong, right? So that's strength. Then we have flexibility, which is basically your ability to bend down and pick that object up.
Okay.
Then
strength and flexibility, which is essentially two different things, right? Because one is the muscle contracting, and one is the muscle elongating,
being able to reach fully.
Right.
There's two things in the middle which I'm gonna take out. I'm just gonna mention them very quickly, which is speed and power. We're gonna separate speed and power from the purpose of this
because that's what that's not.
We're gonna get back to speed and power in a second.
Okay.
Speed and power is a combination of things. We'll get back to that. So the next thing would be coordination.
Okay. Yeah.
Coordination is very important. I can't tell you how many clients I'm like, put your right foot in front of your left and do this, and they can't even take a cueing.
Yeah, I've talked about that before. Thank you. That gives me business.
Right. Like if you see somebody and coordination is off, so that is very much a component of fitness. So coordination, agility.
We could go back to the coordination real quickly. Okay. Sorry. Both you and I are guitar players.
Sure.
There's a lot of coordination involved.
Actually, there's a lot of crossover between musicianship and athleticism because it's both working on the same part of the brain. Like when you learn how to play an instrument, it's a repetitive thing that you do over and over again to work on your chops or It's the same thing with working out. Like when you do a clean or a snatch or an exercise movement that you've been practicing for years, it's kind of like you're practicing to get it just right. So like when you bend the string to get just the right note, just the right tone, or like if your pick attack is it's the same thing. Like it's the same area of the brain, the minute coordination, the focus.
But you always see when like a new guitar player plays, it's very frustrating when you're watching the guy like put your finger there,
right?
And however,
it actually translates. There is actually some crossover between.
So the question is can coordination? Do you think can coordination be learned?
I think it's just practice. It's a function of the nervous system, which is different. Where the first four things I mentioned, the cardiorespiratory fitness, the stamina, the strength, and the flexibility, these are organic fitness markers. Meaning, if you go to the gym and you lift weights, you're going to get stronger.
Right.
If you stretch, you're going to get stronger. Just by bend down, touch your toes, you're going to get more flexible.
Yeah.
But you won't get coordinated unless you practice.
Right. Yeah.
It's a function of the nervous system. It's not a function of organic things like if you eat, you're gonna get it's not. You have to actually practice things like the next four components that I'm gonna mention: coordination, agility. Then we have balance and we have accuracy.
Accuracy. I remember that's
these
one I really
four things: balance, accuracy, coordination. And what was the other one? Agility. So these four things are a function of the nervous system. They are functions of practice. These things, like you can find someone, they could have exceptional balance, they could be very coordinated, they could be very agile, and they could be very accurate, but it doesn't mean they're going to be strong, have cardiorespiratory fitness or anything else like that. They're separated. Now, here's where it gets interesting. For athletes, we have speed and power. Speed and power are the hallmarks of athletes.
That's what separates a good athlete from a great athlete and a bad athlete.
Right. So what actually happens is, what is speed and power actually? Speed and power is the combination of strength, flexibility, cardiorespiratory fitness, and stamina, mixed with agility, coordination, balance, and accuracy. Now, how does that work? If you want to have speed, let's say you want to run fast, but your strides look like you run like a duck because you're not coordinated enough to put your right foot in front of your left foot at high velocity, guess what? You got no speed. And if you want to demonstrate power, if you want to do a clean and jerk, and you don't have the accuracy to aim that weight exactly right when it goes over your head, you're going to miss. You're going to push the bar out to in front of you, and this is why people...
So coordination and accuracy are
they're functions of a nervous system.
So that becomes neurological.
They're neurological. Whereas the other things are biological. Biological markers, strength and flexibility, cardiorespiratory. These are things that any rooted fitness program, like, you don't need to be coordinated to go for a jog per se. Develop cardiorespiratory.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're not that coordinated to go for a jog, then we got.
Well, you might trip over.
There's other stories.
But that's what I'm. But if you do want to sprint really fast, and you're not coordinated, even if you're pretty strong and you've been jogging, chances are you're not going to sprint that fast.
Is that like what happened to Daniel Jones against the Eagles a few weeks ago? He had this runaway Giants fans who might be Giants. You're a Giant fan too, right?
I'm a Jets fan.
Are you? You Jets fan? I'll watch it. So the Giants, Daniel Jones got a breakaway play. All it is him in the end zone, and at the 4-yard line, he stumbles over his own feet and falls.
Right. That's an example of that. The beautiful example. Exactly. You have all the strength and all the finesse and everything's going. You're in a straight line and you fall over. No one tackles you. And that's because at that speed, you weren't coordinated.
He wasn't coordinated.
So you weren't agile enough to put one foot in front of the other and you fell. So speed and power is the combination of cardiorespiratory fitness, stamina, strength, and flexibility mixed with agility, balance, coordination, and accuracy.
When you go to speed and power, which is interesting. So I played football in college,
It's
and
all about
also
speed and power.
I don't know if you wrestled or anything like that, but the one thing I noticed is that every time you got to the next level of athleticism, the two things that happen is the athletes were stronger and faster. And like when you got to championship wrestling guys, they were strong and they were fast. Also, and when you got to a higher level of football, the ball was thrown faster, the receivers were stronger, everything. The other thing I might also...
I would say that's just sport in general.
Yeah.
People are always going to get better.
And the other thing I would say is that when you add that strength and quickness to everything, or quickness and speed, it makes the sports become more violent, or they become more aggressive.
Well, that's true in any contact sport when you're dealing with people moving at high velocity. I mean, like if you really want to get, really, like hockey players, ice hockey, like the hits in ice hockey are just unbelievably. I think they're by far the most devastating hits in professional sports.
Well, because you're going so much faster because you're on ice.
You have the benefit of ice, and you're talking.
And there's no friction to keep you on the ground.
Pop.
My cousin played Division I basketball, and he made it to the tournament and everything. And we talked about playing sports, and he just said, he goes, by the time we made it to the tournament, he goes, the level of how aggressive people were. And one thing he said, and one thing a lot of people might not realize is in the paint, basketball's a pretty violent, aggressive sport. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why guys like Dennis Rodman have succeeded, Charles Barkley.
Basketball people don't realize it. People don't make like basketball as a contact sport. Well, basketball is
a contact sport.
It's clearly a contact sport because, whether or not you're actually striking, but the body to body,
the checks, the hips,
the jostling under the basket, the core strength involved in holding a post position and things like that.
And you're not going to get a rebound without someone trying to get that rebound as well.
It's also the other thing in basketball. Correct. And the other thing is getting hit with your arms extended over your head and being able to take impact while you're extending. These are things that blow out people's back. Guy goes up, they're always getting back spasms, and a lot of times this is just improper flexibility, poor mobility, and that's why a lot of these athletes, wind up getting hurt.
Well, they always talk about the athletes that last a lot longer, and we'll break this up after that. The athletes that last a longer are the ones that continue to do they work with personal trainers, they work with yoga instructors.
Well, you're seeing that more and more commonly now, and it's like if you see some of it, like I see some of the workouts, I'll use Tom Brady for example.
Right.
Like this guy doesn't even lift weights. He's got his own training system coming.
He does the elastic bands though.
I've looked a lot at what he's doing, and it makes sense for him. What would it make sense for everyone else? Probably not, and that's everyone's fitness in general, by the way.
Yeah.
But what Tom Brady is doing, it's special, and I think it's very good for an athlete like him. Would it work for everyone? Probably not, but, if you had someone who was already like a Tom Brady, that's probably what they should do. When I say like a Tom Brady,
meaning?
Like he's already developed that level of coordination and accuracy with his arms, like his neurological function at this point, the accuracy, the coordination to throw the ball. Obviously, he's not agile. We've all seen Tom Brady run.
Yeah, they say he's one of the worst athletes in the league.
But his actual ability to throw the ball is so good that it's he doesn't necessarily need to be super strong and super fast and have great cardiorespiratory fitness because he's such a skill-dominant player.
Yeah, he can sit in the pocket in the way that.
And that's why
I'll take a break. That's cool. All right, we're going to come back. Amin's got a hell of a lot more to talk about. Hope you found that interesting. You'll see us on the other side. Thanks a lot. Anything you want to go into?
I want to go into.
I know I might be sidetracking you too much, so
no,
sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. Where to begin?
But if I do sidetrack, you say, "Hey Pat, let me get back to this," and
right,
we'll get
okay,
to say, "Pat, I'll talk about that later."
Let's talk about why fitness now.
Why fitness now, and then also you want to go into the non-needing the gym as well too.
Right.
So okay.
Yeah, why fitness now?
Okay, cool. All right. Hello, it's Pat. We're talking fitness. I'm with Amin, also known as Coach A. You can work out with him. Just leave some messages or whatever. Leave a comment down below. Amin, what do you got to talk about?
Well, the other thing I wanted to talk about is basically why fitness is important now, particularly now with COVID-19 still ravaging us here in America and around the world. You know, when the COVID-19 thing first came about, and you know, we were talking if it was a Chinese virus or was it man-made, this, that, the other thing. I mean, like, I was kind of like, I really don't want to believe that this could be a man-made virus.
Right.
So, I just really feel that. Let me say this correctly. I think that with this COVID-19 and when we were seeing the results back of who was actually being affected and subsequently dying from this, I haven't seen recent numbers, but I remember looking back in like July and starting to look at the data between who was actually dying from this. Right. And you know, everyone says, "Oh, it's just the old folks," but it's not just the old folks, obviously.
There's been a spike in younger people dying.
I know. I think I just saw on the news, 41-year-old congressman died.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is, the flu historically takes out the weak. Or normal flu will take out those who are old or compromised or anything.
No, but this is what I was actually getting at. What I've noticed with COVID-19 is the cases with comorbidities or pre-existing conditions, in terms of who died from this. I mean, it's absurd. It's like you have a 1 in 12 chance of dying.
If you have a comorbidity?
If you have a comorbidity. Straight up.
So that's 8.5% or something like that?
It's high.
Yeah.
You know? And I've seen some other statistics where like people without comorbidities die at a rate of 1 out of 100,000. Right. So you know we're at a point now where everyone is. I'm hearing things about this vaccine. I'm not really sure if I'm going to say this right, but I'm hearing that one of the vaccines is a nano vaccine, which is not like when they inject, you know, some of the dead vaccines.
No, these are
actually things that change you at a genetic level. One of these vaccines, and I'm not signing up for that. Me personally, I don't think I would ever take a vaccine that I have a 1 in 100,000 chance of dying from. If you don't have pre-existing conditions, 1 in 100,000.
From the disease.
From COVID.
Yeah, from COVID. But you're not saying that you have a chance of dying from the vaccine.
No, I'm not saying. I just think for me to actually mess up my genetics and put something into my genes that could be passed on down the germline, it's a germline change. It permanently alters your DNA.
So I mean, you grew up in a medical household, right? Your dad was a doctor.
Yeah, it's an RNA vaccine.
But I'm just saying, you grew up around medicine, right? So this is
my sister is an anesthesiologist at Lenox Hill. You know, my dad is a doctor. My other sister is a nurse practitioner. Right. So it's like I have a medical family. My mom is a registered nurse. So
I just want to make sure that you understand that if this is something that Amin's growing around the dinner table talking about medicine his whole life.
Yeah, this is like a conversation and. In terms of me taking a quote-unquote RNA vaccine, I need to find out a lot more about that. So what I'll do is I'll wait for everyone to get vaccinated, and if there are no crazy side effects in the next year or so, then maybe I'll think about it.
I was talking to one of my clients who...
At this point, like for me, it doesn't make sense. And the reason I'm saying that, back on topic, the reason I'm saying that is that if you really look at who's dying, the prevalence of people who die with pre-existing conditions is too high to be balked at. In other words, something upwards of 70% of the deaths and fatalities in COVID had 2 or more pre-existing conditions, typically diabetes and high blood pressure. They're the 2 main ones. And these conditions are directly related to physical activity.
So so that's what we'll get to.
And that's really what I want to talk about.
So
pre-existing conditions, particularly diabetes, dyslipidemia, high blood pressure, and obviously obesity.
All right, so let's talk about that. So you're saying the pre-existing conditions and comorbidities that can be avoided via exercise, and to go through that again, you're saying they are?
They are diabetes, dyslipidemia.
What that is being overweight?
Cholesterol, okay, it's not high cholesterol, low cholesterol, it's
Wrong cholesterol.
bad ratio.
Right.
Like the ratio isn't right. Like somebody could have the right cholesterol, but the LDL is too high relative to the HDL, and it just, I think it's what is it? It's 200 for cholesterol.
Well, your overall cholesterol level should be below 200, and then different.
If you have an LDL of 170 and an HDL of 30, you're at the edge, but that's not a good cholesterol.
Yeah.
Whereas if you had a 190 cholesterol total and you had an HDL of 90 and a LDL of 110, well, that's not high cholesterol either. You're at 200.
I always get confused with these, and it's very embarrassing. It's HDL is the
good cholesterol.
Good stuff. And I try to remember because
if the HDL is over 60, and there's no drugs or medications involved with how it got that high, in other words, you're not on a statin that knocked your LDL level down to 0 and did something crazy. Chances are, if you have an HDL above 60, that's actually a cardio benefit factor.
The way I try to remember
it actually is minus a risk factor.
HDL, you want the HDL to be high and the LDL to be low, so H is high, low is L.
And obviously the ratio of HDL to LDL is really, so that's what dyslipidemia.
There's a recent study done about eating eggs and HDLs, and also about diabetics and stuff.
And that's going to be an ongoing thing until the cows come home, and people will have their ongoing thing back and forth, and I think a lot of that back and forth with HDL and eggs and cholesterol is just that it's very hard to do large population studies on people because you can't monitor what they eat and how they exercise and everything all day. It'd be very hard to monitor it. So in general, if you go to your doctor and he tells you your cholesterol is high, chances are you should either modify your diet or start some exercise.
But the first time you have a high cholesterol level, what the doctor tells you to do is modify your diet and add exercise.
Correct.
Before they're going to talk about statins and all of that.
I mean, that is what they should do, in theory.
Do they?
Nowadays, if you walked into a room with 100 doctors and you said, put up your hand, who feels that exercise is good for you, I promise you all 100 doctors are going to wave their hands at you.
And how many doctors are actually exercising?
That's a separate question. But if you ask them what constitutes exercise, not the slightest clue.
I have plenty of doctors.
Slightest idea.
Yeah, I've had plenty of doctors as clients.
But they can recite you should do 30 minutes at 70% of your maximum heart rate 5 days a week. They can all recite that.
They can, and they can properly pronounce a pectoralis major.
Right.
And
latissimus dorsi. All that, but in terms of how that should be applied.
Yeah. So just because you're a doctor, just because you're a health professional, that doesn't mean you're a personal trainer. That doesn't mean that you're pushing your body to the limits to get the results that are necessary.
It also doesn't mean you have to push your body to the limits to get the results.
It doesn't mean that.
Absolutely not.
But you have to push your body to some level.
There has to be, but it's the level that's actually required to get the health benefit is so much less than the mere benefit.
What the high intensity training is offering?
Well, no, the high intensity training is offering exceptional values. So somebody who's been training under high intensity, they may have a resting heart rate
of 47, 30,
even 35, 36, which is about where mine is right now. So you're going to wind up with a resting pulse of 36 and a blood pressure that's not even over 100.
Right, I get that myself.
It's like maybe 105 over 59.
Yeah.
And you're going to have, exceptional blood sugar and exceptional cholesterol. And if you want to go on a binge and eat cake for a month, chances are it's not going to mess you up that bad. Whereas somebody who's started off and they're pretty good, but they're not doing high intensity training, they're going to have a resting pulse of say 65. Maybe they're going to have a body fat percentage a little bit higher, but nothing that's going to make them unhealthy. Their blood pressure is going to be 123 over 82. They're not going to have the exceptional numbers that you're going to see some people.
Something that I noticed in the 18 years that I've been a personal trainer, I have noticed that there are clients that I've had that don't really train incredibly intense, but they always train. And after 20 to 30 years, they're in great shape. And what happens is I notice that some of the people, I get these training, the people that go through bursts, and they'll go crazy for 6 months and then they don't work out for 6 months. And I think that it's better to be slow and steady than it is to be intense and irregular.
I 100% agree with that. Totally agree with that. But here's the way I really look at high intensity versus low intensity training. Let's say you got in your car, and you have to get to the store, or you were going somewhere. And there were two ways to get there. You could either get on a highway that was completely congested with traffic and sit and wait for 2 hours to get there, right? Or you could get in your car and you could drive through stop and go traffic from light to light at full speed and get there in 15 minutes, or get there instead of 2 hours. But the thing is that stop and go traffic on your car
puts a lot more
stress on it.
Yeah.
Especially like, maybe you hit the brakes and there's an ice patch and the next thing you know you're skidding. So what I'm saying is the same thing is true with the body. So with high intensity training, it's like running your car to get to a point that's actually could be 15 minutes away.
Hey, that's an awesome way to segue.
But you might crash.
Yeah, can we go right back and take a break so we keep this in 5? I want to keep these all in 5 minutes. So see us on the other side. We're going to talk about the impact of high intensity training on your body as opposed to, it's the tortoise and the hare, right? Is what we're going?
Yeah, I mean, eventually you're going to get there with the 2 hour ride on the highway.
All right, let's clip this right here. You'll see us on the other side. Boom. That was interesting. I'm afraid that I am disrupting you too much.
I should have brought my notes. I got so much stuff.
I know. And we're talking too much about like JIT stuff. All right. So
let's try to stay focused on. Yeah. I was talking about dyslipidemia. We're talking about.
Why don't you write those things down or something? We'll do it that. As long as you know it.
I know the four. You're talking about diabetes, dyslipidemia, obesity, and high blood pressure. Okay. And we can also throw lower back pain into that as well.
Okay, so we'll come back on this.
We can throw them, but them four things are the main pre-existing conditions that are being eaten by COVID and are directly linked to exercise.
And then what I think I might do, I might change one of these camera angles and bring it a little closer to you on the side on this one here. I'm going to open it up.
Who is that? Is that Lauren?
Yeah, that is Lauren.
She's looking really thin too. Wow, she's lost so much weight.
She's ripped up. She's cool in a way. It's like she's a girl. She's good looking. But
she's hurt.
The second you talk to her, it's like talking to like a guy in a garage. Like she's very like. She's just a guy. Like she's very easy for guys to get along with. Whatever. She's cool. All right, so here we go. Hey, how are you? This is Pat. I'm talking fitness with Amin, Coach A. Amin's got a ton of information. Unfortunately, I've been interjecting a little bit too much, so I want him to go through. Amin, what are we talking about?
So, pre-existing conditions and why fitness is important, especially now. Pre-existing conditions, the majority of the fatalities of COVID have had one or more pre-existing conditions. Upwards of 70% of the COVID deaths in this country, we were seeing two pre-existing conditions, primarily diabetes and high blood pressure.
Diabetes and high blood pressure are
two most commonly associated pre-existing conditions with COVID mortality.
And both diabetes and high blood pressure usually come around from a sedentary
lifestyle.
Sedentary lifestyle.
This is something that every doctor knows, and this is the elephant in the room. Like, if you really, I was saying is, if you want to cure diabetes, all you have to do to cure diabetes, and this is not rocket science. This is not rocket science. You just have to.
This is type 2 diabetes.
Type 2, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Type 1 diabetes is totally different animal. Like we're talking about type 2.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me. With type 2 diabetes, if you really want to cure type 2 diabetes, go on a ketogenic diet for 2 months.
Yeah, I've heard that people tell me that's a
and your diabetes will be gone. Especially if you're already on some drug like metformin or something like that, where you're already playing with your blood sugar like that. Try a ketogenic diet for 2 months and tell me what happened to your diabetes.
And the basic principles of a ketogenic diet are?
You low carbohydrate. You limit your carbohydrate intake to no more than say 5 to 10%.
So the paleo diet is like ketogenic?
No, that's not ketogenic.
Oh, really?
Ketogenic diet is a diet that your macronutrients are basically coming from, I would say, 65 to 70% fat, about 10% to 15% protein, and maybe 20% protein.
So
give
me the
70% fat. 20% protein.
Animal fat?
It doesn't have to be, but it could be. And
so give us an idea of a ketogenic diet.
If I was going to do a ketogenic diet, a typical breakfast for me,
right? Yeah, tell me.
Might be like I may get up and have a piece of mozzarella cheese.
Really?
With over lettuce, with cut up tomatoes, with a little salt and pepper and olive oil.
That's what you have for breakfast?
Yeah, if I was on a keto diet. Yeah, or I might, because some people are really into, like they'll have eggs. Or
yeah, I like the eggs. I was thinking you were going to have eggs.
And the mistake is that with a real ketogenic diet, eventually your body is very smart. And if you eat more than like a set amount of protein, your body will actually take that protein, process it into sugar, and you're not.
I've heard that your body does that, like say with supplements, it will take the protein, like the whey protein, and then
everyone's so crazy now.
And it uses it as a fiber. It uses it as different. Your body.
Your body is wildly intelligent at this. So that's why I'm saying if you really want a ketogenic diet, like it's not even about protein. It's not about eating, that. Whereas the Atkins diet leans more into that protein.
Right.
It's not even about. It's straight up about eating fats, healthy fats. Healthy fats examples are nuts, avocados, olive oil. That's when I'm on a ketogenic. If I do something, and I don't mess with, I do mess with ketogenic diets if I'm trying to quote unquote lean out.
Right. Well, you lost it over this coronavirus. You've lost what?
Well, during the coronavirus, one of the things I did play with was a ketogenic diet for about 2 months, and that really brought my weight down. But then it also brought the workout down. There is no working out with intensity on a ketogenic diet. If anyone thinks that way, you're welcome to come show me how you do it. There is no working out. There is no high intensity workouts on ketogenic diet.
I do know that if I have
absolutely not.
If I have a big workout plan the day before, I do eat carbs, complex carbs,
and the more the merrier, because that's what you're really burning. Once your heart rate pretty much crosses 80%, even 70% threshold, you're burning glycogen at that point. From that point out, you're not burning fat anymore.
So when you're burning glycogen,
70%, you're burning glycogen. That's carbs.
And for people to understand, what the process of burning glycogen means that you're taking you're taking energy out of your muscles as opposed to taking energy out of your fat cells.
Correct. The fuel for exercise is coming from
the glycogen stores in your muscles.
The glycogen stores. It's not coming from Krebs cycle.
Yeah, this is one of the things I hear people.
This is a separate. This is like a huge metabolic topic that it's really going to steer people off. But basically, what you need to know is when the exercise gets intense, like when you start to feel like you're out of breath, you're not burning fat anymore. You're burning carbohydrates.
When you start
to feel yourself breathing heavy,
yeah.
You're certainly not burning fat.
So that's how like old-fashioned bodybuilders, they never do cardio, or they're very.
Okay, even a bodybuilder. Let's say you go in and you do a set of squats.
Right.
The first set of depending on what level where you fail at, determines what the primary fuel for that exercise is. It also depends on your neural level, how deep into that set you can get. What I mean is there's one athlete who can put a bar on his back and squat it 10 times, and he thinks he's really burning. Here, you and me are both, let's say, argument's sake, we're both 180 pounds.
That's what I am, 180 now.
I squat 315 for 10, and you squat 225 for 10.
So yeah, right now I'm probably at 185.
No, I'm just using it as an example. We both weigh the same amount, we're about the same height, who worked harder? Now you could say, obviously my ability to, it was more weight versus the mass. I'm reaching deeper into my energy reserves. There's nothing about that's going to, that squat is not going to take more out of me than a 225 squat.
Okay.
It's also relevant to the person. That's not really the best example. But basically when you're out of breath when you finish a set of squats, Like if I do a set of 135.
But that's anaerobic type of cardio, right?
Yeah, that pulls out carbs.
Because what I find with myself
as
is
you get closer to the anaerobic threshold,
right,
the more carbohydrates you're going to burn.
So this is interesting. Anaerobic cardio. Can we talk about that? Do you mind?
I think we should stick to the diet. I think we should stick on a pre-existing condition.
Pre-existing conditions. All right, we'll go back to that because that's something I always like talking about is anaerobic. All right, pre-existing conditions.
All right, so the four major pre-existing conditions: obesity, diabetes, dyslipidemia, high blood pressure. These are directly exercise related, and 70% of the mortalities in COVID, fatalities of COVID, have had 2 or more pre-existing.
Someone comes to you with these ailments. What do you do with them?
The first thing I do with them is send them to their doctor and make sure that they've had a pre-screening. Because if somebody comes in and I ask them straight up, are you being treated for any of these? Like if you're being treated for diabetes,
right? If
that diabetes isn't being treated,
right,
well, you have to go get your diabetes treated. That's a metabolic disease that has to be treated before you even begin a disease. Like before you.
A diabetic client has a better chance of passing out during their workouts, right? Is that what it is, or something?
I mean, like their sugar should be stable,
right?
In the workout. Like you can't have somebody show up at the workout with 300 plus blood sugar.
That was such a fucking stupid question. Let's repeat that. I sound like an idiot.
Right?
So, all right, we're talking comorbidities. Yeah, sorry, I'm going to read it. Hey, how are you? We're talking comorbidities with Amin, Coach A. If you're looking to start a workout plan, if you're someone that does have comorbidities, you're concerned about that, you can leave a message here. Amin would be more than happy to work with you. I'll be happy to find someone if Amin doesn't fit. But whatever, let's go into it.
So the major comorbidities are high blood pressure, dyslipidemia, obesity, and what was the other one I mentioned? Oh, diabetes. How could I forget diabetes?
And it's type 2 diabetes?
Type 2 diabetes.
Oh, but if you're type 1 diabetes, that's still a comorbidity, right? That would...
yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay. But we can control...
You really can't control type 1. If you have juvenile, it is what it is. You're born with that. I mean,
type 2 we can modify through exercise.
You have some variability. So with these 4 primary conditions that are the major comorbidities affecting us, which by the way, 80% of the money we use in this country for our insurance is spent dealing with these comorbidities. 1 in every $7 spent in healthcare in the United States is directly related to diabetes. That's an actual stat. You can look that one up. That one I'm gonna put that out there. So
that's it.
With these things in mind, it's like, wouldn't it be better if we had more money to deal with things like, say, cancer?
Yeah.
As opposed to 80% dealing with
people with bad diet. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Yeah, bad diets and bad habits.
And bad exercise habits, because it's what
lifestyle.
It is, bad lifestyle habits, because that's what we're using our money for, and that's why our cost of insurance is so high. Because when you show up at the doctor and you got some high blood pressure, the first thing he does is, well, here, take this pill. Oh, you have some high cholesterol, no problem. Here, take this.
There's a lot of
that is what's happening in medicine. And right now at this point, particularly with this COVID time, that is not the way to deal with these conditions, because ultimately, it's like putting a Band-Aid on like a what do we call it? When you
Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
Yeah, exactly. You don't do it, because ultimately it may stop it for a while, but it's only a matter of time.
I know a lot of trainers are suspect of statins. Are you?
Personally, like if a doctor puts you on a statin, you're going to be on that statin until he tells you. I mean, I'm not going to ever tell you not to take a statin. If a doctor tells you to take a statin, you take the statin.
Right.
As a trainer, as a coach, I would never make a decision against a doctor.
Right.
But what I would do is I would probably advise you on some things that could get you off that statin. So maybe when you went back to your doctor in 6 months and he retested you, he'd either adjust your dosage or possibly remove. And I've had many, many clients who have been on medication for high blood pressure and statins, some of which have even been stented, who their doctors have actually removed them from their medications.
A few years ago, I went to the doctor and my cholesterol was over. My overall cholesterol was over 200. And then they actually, the first thing they said is like, well, we can give you some medication. And I was like, no. I was like, you know what? I'm like, I can get this down. And I said, well, and it was, I did it like in November, and I waited to January, and I stopped eating. I was eating a pint of ice cream a night.
By the way, I do the same. I eat a pint of ice cream every day as well.
That's a weird thing. A lot of trainers, a lot of really fitness people are, I notice they're sugar junkies in that way.
I just need calories. For me, it's more of a calorie thing. I need calories.
I love the ice cream.
But I mix it with whey protein, berries, and stuff like that.
Okay, what do I...
So anyway, so with them 4 pre-existing conditions that I mentioned, the best treatment, and I mean this, and I'm not just saying this because I'm in fitness,
right.
is fitness training. Primarily a strength and cardiovascular conditioning program.
So the way to get, so that's a very simple answer. So get rid of your comorbidities, get to the gym.
Well,
or
you know, and that's the other thing. During this COVID time, and this is something I really wanted to touch on, is nowadays I really think that if you're an intermediate or even a beginner for sure, you definitely do not really need the majority of equipment in a commercial gym.
All right, let's take a quick break with that, and we're going to start all over again. Comorbidities, what we were just talking about. Exercise is the one way to get to cure that. To straight up cure that. And the ways comorbidities come about through sedentary lifestyle. They come about through aging. They come through bad eating habits. Is there anything else that's in there? Stress. Yeah. Okay. Environment. Well, stress probably causes the environment.
Cigarette smoking.
Cigarette smoking. Oh yeah. You know, you don't even think about that anymore.
Cigarette smoking is just like if you're still smoking cigarettes nowadays and you're not exercising or not doing something to counterbalance that, you're a death bomb. You're a death bomb ticking.
Cigarette smoking has definitely gone down the line. All right, let's talk about that other thing when we come back. Thanks a lot. I'm with Amin, Coach A. See you on the other side. What are we going to... Oh, you don't need the gym anymore.
We don't need the gym.
All right, so here we go. All right, talking fitness. This is Pat. I am with Coach A. Amin. How are you?
Well, good. Thank you, Pat.
What did we learn? And I learned the same thing, too, is that... You go on. You tell everybody.
Well, I just... You know, while I've been sitting home for the last 6 months, you know, trying to maintain my fitness, I have become basically re-hammered with the effects of calisthenics training.
Love calisthenics.
Calisthenics training for beginners, and actually calisthenics and gymnastics training in particular for beginners and intermediates as a way to prepare them for more serious training. But it really, ultimately, I really don't feel that we need gyms anymore.
I think a lot of people learn that.
And I can't believe I'm saying that.
And you're a gym rat, and I don't want to say I'm a gym rat as well. I enjoy being in a gym. I used to work in finance. I did not enjoy being in an investment institution wearing a suit. Didn't feel like myself. Show up in a gym, I'll yell across the room. I'm more than happy to eat my lunch in a gym.
No, but that's what I'm saying. People actually like going to the gym, and I think that that part that's a separate element. Like if you have a gym and you like the camaraderie, you like the energy of a gym, that is something that you can't take away.
Right.
But in terms of do you need to go to a gym to work out? Oh no. If you're a beginner or an intermediate, absolutely not. Now I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm clearly not. I bench 225. I'm not a beginner. Well, here's the thing. So how do we classify what a beginner is? Well, let me tell you, you're a beginner. If you've been sitting on the couch living Covita Loca for the last 6 months, you're a beginner.
You're back to being a beginner.
You're a beginner.
Least, yeah.
If you've taken 6 months off to live Covita Loca, you are absolutely a beginner. Don't even.
What's the longest you've gone without working out?
Never that long. Oh my God, I don't think I'd make it more than. I don't know. I haven't. Oh my God. I haven't missed a workout. I have not taken even a day off in over 4 months.
But I would have to say, I started working out regularly somewhere in my early teenage years,
right,
and I haven't missed. But through this coronavirus quarantine, it was the longest period I've ever gone without lifting weights.
Well, I haven't lifted weights in months.
And shows your abs again.
No, I mean, abs, they're there.
Yeah, come on, show it.
They're there.
That shit sells. Sorry, excuse my French.
I'm sitting down,
and he's sitting down, he's concerned.
And here's the thing, calisthenics training. Now, what do I mean by that? Like, if you can't do pull-ups, push-ups, and air squats...
Pull-ups are tough, though.
No, but what I'm saying is that you go out, you go get a band, and you start doing some pull-ups.
Or you do the Aussie pull-ups, or it might be an easier way.
What's the Aussie?
Aussie pull-up is when your feet are on the ground, like you
right.
But
this is what I'm saying. Like, if you can't generate a pull-up, and actually I think that lack of calisthenics training actually it's more of a detriment to your long-term fitness success. Because what will happen is I'll get some guy, he'll come in here and he'll build himself up on that pull-down machine over there. But God forbid, when he tries to go do a pull-up, his lower back is too,
right.
He's overdeveloped. It imbalances you because you're not used to pulling the weight of your own legs.
Yeah.
It develops.
Well, it shows you that you can manage your own body, is if you can do calisthenics.
Correct. Now, if you're 300 pounds, you can get on that pull down and probably do some pull downs. But let me see your pull up.
Right.
Because very quickly, the calisthenically built body is more conducive to symmetry and overall function. But what I'm saying is at some point, like if you can't comfortably move your own body weight, there's no point of going to the gym and moving more than your body weight. So what I'm saying is until you can move your own body weight in every direction.
And we're not talking about offense and defensive linemen in the NFL. We're talking about an average
you could do pull-ups, you could do push-ups, maybe you could do a plank, you could do a handstand push-up. Like until you have basic calisthenic strength, to mess with weightlifting may actually be a detriment. Now here's something I see all the time. I see this guy in the gym and he's doing standing military press. And his body, as the bar starts to go overhead, starts to look like a bow and arrow.
Yeah, so
it starts to bend back.
Right.
You know, like it looks like a bow loading up to fire an arrow. The only thing is that unlike a bow and arrow, if the bow snaps, you can go out in the woods and get a new bow and make a new bow. If the back snaps, you're shit out of luck. So the thing is that how do you correct that? Why is that person bending back so far? Well, let me tell you something. If you want to get north of 2 times your body weight overhead locked out, if you can't do a handstand push-up or don't know that, or don't know whether or not you're never going to get that weight.
So let's go into body weight. Unless you're
not going to get anything like that over your head. And the reason it is because the muscles in the midline that are responsible for controlling your core while heavy loads are going over your head or while you're pulling a heavy load aren't being stimulated from things like seated dumbbell press. So someone who sits with an inclined dumbbell and he's doing seated inclined dumbbell press, he's not actually training his core muscles to support heavy objects going over their head or a person who's doing that. So where calisthenics comes in is, it's very useful for intermediates and advanced, especially during this time, is because you can actually work on functional imbalances by using calisthenics training. So when you get back to the weight room, you'll really see your numbers blow up. Similarly, like if you see someone who's squat and they're squatting and they're leaning forward and they can't, get a nice, sit.
Well, you have a really good range of motion and you have your flexibility.
But it didn't come from. My point is that type of range of motion doesn't come from loaded up. Like you'll see some guy in the gym, some 20-year-old, and he's got like an absurd amount of weight, and he looks like a chimpanzee. He looks like a chimp riding a pogo stick. Like bouncing up and down on a pogo stick because he's not even moving, and it's just like, what are you doing?
Oh, you're talking about I'm
talking about
range.
This guy.
Yeah, to the limited range of motion. However, that guy will sit and tell you that, well, it's the workload. At least I'm putting the stress on my body by having that workload. But
at the same time, 20 years from now, where he could have had a nice range of motion when he's 40, because it's always the young guy doing it. Old guys, you'll see an old guy doing it, but usually by the time somebody's 40, they're like, oh, why am I even going to put that thing on my back? And they're not going to do it. So, but I'll see them at 40 and they'll have lower back and knee problems. And they're like, oh, I used to do these crazy workouts when I was a kid, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, they weren't crazy. They were just stupid.
Yeah, I did that through my 20s before I became a personal trainer. I used to do these crazy workouts with terrible form, and I'm paying for it.
I don't know. I can't tell you how many people I've seen with rotator cuff injuries from incline benching, behind the neck pull downs, lower back problems from incorrect deadlifts, T-bar rows. T-bar rows I've seen so many people with messed up backs from seated
T-bar rows.
Yeah, like the unsupported T-bar rows, like the T-bar without the pad, like a T-bar row. Like I've seen so many lower back tweaks from that.
I do bent over rows and I have sciatica, and a lot of times after I do bent over rows, I end up irritating the sciatica.
So that's why I'm saying if you have a base of pull-ups, chances are you're not going to get messed up. If you've learned to move basically like how to pick objects up, how to actually pick up an object correctly off the floor, quote unquote deadlifting, like if you learn how to pick things up, objects in life, chances are you're going to be okay.
So, I know there's a thing. So let's go to the top. I wrote a note right there. Top body weight exercises, and these are kind of
these are very. Do you have your own ideas? Because I have my top 3.
I'll give you. I have like 5 that I'm thinking of. But what I'm going to say is that these are like the fundamentals of fitness. These are the exercises that you need to get
some level of proficiency.
And the thing is that some people are going to have a hard, so there might be people that can bench press 225 pounds for 10 reps, but can only do 25 push-ups.
Right.
And so this is where you're making, we're taking gym class heroes or weight room heroes, and we're putting them in a little room.
And we're just seeing how they balance out
right.
when it comes to moving within themselves, because ultimately that functional capacity is to be able to move your own body.
So yeah, your body weight.
What I would say is.
And if someone was going to train with, this is probably something that you would start with.
This is what I would start with. I would start with 3 movements.
Okay.
I would start with 3 movements. And on the very first day of training, I would go over 3 movements. I would look at the way they squatted. Squat. I would have them do a body weight, just stand up, and I would have them stand just like that. We'll do a little squat, and we'll see how they squat down, right? And if they can squat down, if your knees don't sound like Rice Krispies.
Yeah, I got a little Rice Krispies on you. Let's get the little. I'll get that view.
If you actually get a significant range of motion, where you see somebody and they have no problem, they get into their hips, their knees. If you see somebody squatting and they're like this on the way down, and their knees going like that, we know we have a problem, right?
There's
so
a lot,
squatting and they're like this. Like you see that motion.
What about the guy that goes on his toes and his knees go forward?
So there are so many things, but my point is all of these things should be corrected before the barbell ever goes anywhere near your body. Before the barbell sits on you.
So you're talking about that's where your air squat's coming.
So if you can't squat an air squat correctly, there is no barbell coming for you.
Can you demonstrate some of the things that are wrong?
Oh, in a nutshell, we have.
Try to get on that camera right there.
We have my favorite one, which is the internal collapse. Is the person sits up, they go to squat, their knees start to go like that to the inside. They go in. So that's the number one.
So the collapsing knees.
Collapsing knees. That's the number one.
Knock knee.
The other one is the back, round back.
Rounded back.
There you go. That one right
there. Yeah. Okay.
Like that. Then we have the people who lean too far forward. Then we have the people whose knees come out way above.
That's the one that I see. That's something that amazes me. Is you get these people who keep their upper body incredibly erect. I know. And then they go knees over their toes.
Yeah, and then again, these are just some of the things that could go wrong with a squat, and these all should be corrected before a barbell ever touches the body. Again, so that's my exercise number 1. Exercise number 2 is the push-up.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good straight up and down push-ups, now I get into trouble with this because I want to see chest to ground push-up. Mm-hmm. I like to see the chest hit the deck. Some people, they want to come down to 90 degrees at the elbow. I say screw it. I always go chest to deck.
My solar plexus hit that.
I go chest to deck, and here's the reason I go chest to deck, because that's what it is. It's your body. You're on the floor. You're on your face.
If you have a rotator cuff injury, obviously you might
modify. But here's the thing: people usually don't get rotator cuff injuries from doing push-ups. Just so you know.
Also,
I've never seen somebody blow out their rotator cuff from doing push-ups. Have you?
No.
No. You're never going to hear that story. It's always some pull down, chin up, blah blah blah. Did something. You'll never ever.
I mean, this is how people blow out the rotator cuff is like reaching in the back of the car, putting a backpack on. There's these weird exercises that really blow, or a sport, playing something.
So then the next thing is the pull up. Now the pull up is a little bit tricky because I always start when I take a beginner. I start with the squat and I say, okay, you can squat, and then I watch them squat, and if you could do 15 squats in a row, and it takes less than a minute, and I couldn't, didn't make a sandwich while you were doing it. So 15, it's a tempo. So you'd be like 1, 2, 3. If it takes you a minute to complete 15 squats, chances are it's a little slow, right? Maybe you want to get 15 reps in 40 seconds. A bodyweight squat. Okay, then that's good. Then I know you passed it. If you can't do 15 squats in a minute, or if you can't get off the chair you've been sitting on for the last 6 months, watching, news on COVID, chances are you're actually more susceptible to dying from COVID prematurely than you know.
I train a group of octogenarians, and we do sit down, stand up.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. If you can't get up out of that chair that you've been sitting in 15 times in a minute.
And we did in an hour's workout, we get in 100 of those. We do 10 sets of 10. And they're all in their 80s.
And honestly, that's a win. So when I was saying earlier about fitness, if you can get off the toilet, then you've won. That is exactly my definition of fitness: the ability to do the things that you need to do throughout your life.
And there have been times in my life where I'm looking. Okay,
so then after squat, we go to push up.
Push up.
Now, if you can get down and you can knock out 10 push-ups and it doesn't look like a pregnant worm giving birth, we've done great. So if it's a straight up and down push-up and it doesn't look like, you know, a worm birthing a child, it's great. Then after that, then we go to pull-ups. And now, let's say someone could do 5 pull-ups now. And they pull up and it doesn't look like a fish and it's straight up and down. It's not some, you know, the arm is barely hanging on. They can take a nice overhand grip. Once you demonstrate them 3 things to me, at that point, you're a glorified beginner. Not an intermediate, just a glorified beginner. Then I say, oh, you got a squat? Good. You got a push-up? Good. Then you got a pull-up. The next thing is, you know what? Do you think you could do 15 squats, 10 push-ups, and 5 pull-ups without stopping?
Pull-ups are hard, though. I mean, are you using assisted band pull-ups for certain people?
What I do with let's say you're 30-something, right?
Yeah.
Before you go, just get on the bar and start to pull wildly, I would develop some type of tension in your hands and your forearms. Maybe shrug your shoulders, see if you can retract your scapula. If you don't know what it means to retract your scapula, probably you shouldn't do pull-ups. Because you don't want to, like if you don't have control of your shoulder blades up and down while you're actually attempting to do pull-ups, chances are you shouldn't be doing it yet. You should probably be working with the band. But usually, like if I see someone who can't even get to 10 push-ups, we're not even going to do them. You know, like if your push-up looks that off, there's no chance you're doing any pull-ups.
Right.
Like if somebody gets down and like dink, 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 chances are you're going to get a pull-up. I don't have to worry.
Yeah.
If you get down and you're bending already on the push-ups, there's going to be no pull-up.
Yeah, I've never met the guy who can do, you know, like 100 pull-ups and can't do a push-up or something.
Right.
Usually it's overall.
But usually, like they come together. Like if you got somebody who could do pull-ups, chances are they're going to do push-ups. And if you have somebody who could do a good amount of push-ups, chances are they're going to be able to do a pull-up. So that's why I'm saying, so for me, I start with squats though. If you can't get up out of your legs, 15 squats, 10 push-ups, 5 pull-ups. Now once you could do that, how fast can you do it? So, and this is where I get into my initial assessment that I've been using during COVID, is if you can do, say, 15 squats, 10 push-ups, 5 pull-ups in a minute, and then duplicate that 10 times over 10 minutes, so a total of 150 squats, 100 push-ups, and 50 pull-ups.
In 10 minutes.
In 10 minutes.
That's good.
Now at that point, now you're an intermediate. Now you're definitely intermediate.
Oh man, you're a tough grader.
No, but dude, how are push-ups? I mean, like, if you can't do, and it's up and down. Like, if you saw someone who has a capacity to do them movements, then you become intermediate. As soon as you can show me that you have stamina to at least, you know, it's 100 push-ups.
What is that? It's 10 push-ups,
it's
15
squats.
15 squats, it's 15,
10
10, 5.
15, 10, 5. It's the same as the Murph.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's how I do my Murph, is I kind of separate things.
And that's what it is. And that's what it is. 15, 10, 5. And if you could do that in 10 minutes and hold that pace, you're good to go. You're an intermediate. Now, if you could do it for 20 minutes in a row, then you're something else.
So we brought up the Murph. We got a bunch of other things to talk about. Stay on the other side. I wanted to keep it short. I'll probably break this up.
And I got to run some errands.
All right.
I got a lot, dude. I got so much shit.
I know, but you know what? Here's the deal.
We gotta focus.
Exactly.
What
I'm gonna do is I'm gonna.
Pat, I got a lot of stuff. I'll send. You know what, dude? I'm gonna send you all my notes, all the shit that I've written. You can take a look at it and see what you want.
So here's what I'm going to do today with our stuff. I'm going to put you, I'm going to do the rough draft, just cut out if we said anything inappropriate. It'll be long and running. It won't be segmented. I put it to my own YouTube page. It doesn't get broadcast to anybody else, but it's an easier way for me to share the link with you. You look at it. Tell me if there's anything in that you say, oh, fucking definitely stay away from that. And if there's any type of highlight, you say that. I definitely think you and I have more to talk about.
Yeah, dude, we have, honestly, like, I think that we have to arrange it a little bit. We have to actually, let's talk about it.
Yeah, because you're a talker as well as I am, and I interject too little.
I'm going to give you a really solid.
But